So yeah, this is not a financial advice only. We are just educational purpose and not a financial. He's not a financial. Nobody is a financial consultant here. Please consult your advisor. Okay, get started.
Okay, all right. So to get started, I think this is one of the blockchain which we really want to get deep into. Just trying to identify retrospect, like what they have done so far and why they're not even trying to be the top in the market. Though they have a lot of merits, to me, as on today, they have all the merits than any other blockchain till date, to be frank, when we go to look into them so deep. But they're still lagging on several aspects. We couldn't able to catch up the market share with a lot more challenges what they have come across. But we will go through them like what it is. But before we get there, to get started, probably many of us might have been coming from technical backgrounds, might have been doing software engineering one way or other. But to start with, currencies like whatever we might have been talking across is a monetization layer on top of the technology. But here we're just talking only about the technology. We're not going to pick the price. We're not going to talk anything about the currencies, exchanges, We're not going to refer anything over there. All we are here just to learn how this technology is going to change the world. Touch wood, trust my word, you keep hearing this now and then. From now onwards, if you pass like 10 years from now, you may hear more than what you hear like 2 years ago. So that's what the reality is going to be. Blockchain is going to be there. Blockchain is going to revolutionize the way how we treat the internet. Like you might have heard several times, people referring Web 3.0, 4.0, 2.0, whatever the version you come up across. This is just going to enable the freedom for the users, like who are internet users, and eliminating the boundaries between the demographics and bringing the trustlessness between the parties, like what these centralized systems have been doing from several decades. So people are looking for freedom with no boundaries. The blockchain is the only answer. I wouldn't say that there are other answers. Blockchain is the only answer to get that freedom to the users moving forward. But the race to win the market share is all I think we keep hearing now. Every now and then, one chain is superior than the other. One is just getting pumped. One is just having a release on this. I have more code, user base, and all that stuff. But so keeping all that like the race aside, I think technology, from a technology standpoint, everybody have their own merits. Whatever they come up, there is a working solution which they might have worked. I believe thousands and thousands of developers might have been developing the code with the open source spirit, and they are actually trying to envision the creator's vision to make this world free from all these centralized systems. That's all the target is. So at a high level, blockchain, maybe you can simply treat, for an understanding standpoint, to keep it simple, we can simply call that as just like a distributed database. So we might have heard several names in the market, right? So we have MySQL, some open source databases, from some proprietary databases like Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, whatnot, right? These are all databases. So blockchain at a whole is just the database. That's all. There is nothing beyond that. There's no rocket science which they are trying to build within that. It is just a distributed ledger which will store the transactions in the form of a block. So since I'm from a database background, I know in and out how an Oracle engine might have got created. It is again, you call a database at a size of 10 terabyte, assume that. So the 10 terabyte is just like a contiguous data blocks, which will have a transaction. The transaction might be a column, might be a row. Some column databases carry columns, some row databases carry a row. But ultimately, it's a representation of a array of bytes in a form of block. Even blockchain is just that. But I think the innovation of blockchain is even more radical than any traditional database, because it just makes in such a way, like, we have to, if you see the enterprises, like they run databases within a closed system, but they spend billions and billions of dollars from a licensing perspective to safeguard their data, right? So you have authentication, authorization, security, everything is being inbuilt within the database, but ultimately the power will be cascaded to the individual enterprise to operate it. Say, for example, a banker who might have been running the customer's database will have the same like a blockchain, but the power of that centralized database is being held by the banker, right? He can modify the data. He can update the data. He can corrupt the data. He can even steal anything, whatever he wanted to. We are completely relying on these central authorities, be a banker in this case, to believe that the data, whatever he's holding, is intact with the reality. But there is no guarantee that it has been achieved, right? People breach their database. They can hack the data. They can modify the data. There are a lot more things, right? You have certain audits. Companies have spent billions of dollars to go through these SOC compliances, to go HIPAA compliances. All these security compliances are based on that, to ensure that all these big giants are following these security controls to preserve the data and ensuring that the user's interests are being protected. So imagine that if you really try to keep the database in a public domain, say the public domain in a sense, the YouTube is a public domain. Assume that it's a public domain, right? Anybody can access, anybody can upload a video. You imagine that you get the same security, even more security than a centralized system. And imagine that system is being open to everyone. So think of these systems which are not being managed by Google. YouTube is a video library for all of us, right? Assume that there is a platform for you where you upload whatever you want to upload, but nobody can touch that content, whatever you upload. Nobody can even counterfeit your data, which is what we call them as immutability, right? That's what, whether the program is immutable or your data is immutable or non-immutable. I think blockchain is exactly based on that. It's a non-immutable distributed blockchain where not that one party can collude and try to modify your data. It's immutable in nature. So blockchain is just that. When you come back to the closed systems, the database is being managed by central environments with all securities within. Here, when it comes to open systems, users are managing their own public key, private key. They are the owners for that data. No one else can steal that. No one can even try to access the data what you have, because every other block, every other transaction is being protected by their cryptography on top of this data. Like whatever the blocks we are talking about, right? So they call them as cryptography. So the cryptography with SHA-256 algorithms. So I think the era of Bitcoin, whatever you see, is just that cryptography, which is being publicly accessed by anyone in this world with an open ledger concept, but the user's data is being protected using the cryptography. They have several consensus algorithms from one to other, like how the data is being protected, though it is open in nature, that we will get through. But at a high level, it is just that. I think we have some basis before we get started into specific blockchain. Is that a right assumption at this point?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I think that's good. Let's continue.
Okay. All right. So to get started, I think we picked EOS as a point of discussion for today. So this the founder of EOS is Dan Larimer. I think he is one of the tech evangelists, I would say, who is even as close to Dan Larimer too. I think he has some history where he'd exchanged some technical discussion with Satoshi Nakamoto too, regarding he has his own thesis behind the immutability. He has his own thesis behind the Turing complete blockchain, because Bitcoin is non-Turing complete. So I think he's that supreme. So he had some disputes. He didn't even like the ideology of being proof of work, like where Bitcoin is. He had started building his own consensus algorithm called delegated proof of stake. He is the patent owner for that DPoS. So people claim that we have proof of stake, proof of history, proof of work, proof of XYZ, right? Proof of identity, proof of authority. A lot more consensus algorithms are available in market being open source. But this Dan Larimer is the man behind that DPoS, the delegated proof of stake protocol. And he has some history. I have some thing covering on the next slide. Who had built BitShares. Probably if you guys have heard about BitShares, that's the first decentralized exchange built on an open system using DPoS protocol. So to get started, what is EOS? I think EOS does not have any long format. I think they just kept this name, but people have some names when they were actually trying to make this go live. I think they didn't say yes or no, but I think they just let it to the community to decide what that EOS stands for. But there were some memes, people call this as Ethereum on steroids, something like that, EOS. But they didn't claim that it is true. But EOS has no EOS has no standards as such what it stands for. But people pick whatever name they want to pick. So I think to get enough history, this Daniel Lermer is the man behind this EOS from a technology standpoint. He's the CTO for Block One, and Brendan Bloomer is the CEO for Block One. So why they actually, usually if you see these open systems, we always hear these open systems, right? Like it is open source, like anybody can go there and try to grab their source code from GitHub, and you can launch your own blockchain. You can simply get the code, whatever they have developed, and you can run it. I think you don't need to pay a single penny. Any organization, any individual to that matter, you can run your own single node and try to run a blockchain on top of it. But since it's an open source, I think you don't need to pay anything to anyone. But I think since we're talking about the distributed systems, people will simply go for public blockchain, private blockchain. So if you run a blockchain within your organization, it is a private blockchain. And if you run them on a public blockchain, if you really pick EOS, whatever you see in the market, it is a public blockchain. So where, like, maybe I can show like how many block producers are actually being producing the blocks today. But to get started, I think EOS is just like a public blockchain based on a delegated proof of stake protocol. And as on today, I think it can even scale at a max, at a peak. I have seen them going at 4,500 transactions per second. The merits, what I have mentioned before, I think I have a table to compare this with other blockchains, why it is so superior, why I picked that stance of saying this EOS is superior than anyone else other than the demerits. But it can, I think they claim it can even go to hundreds and thousands of transactions going forward if they really design in such a way that the community demands them to go to that scale. So obviously, Ethereum is the most obvious choice in the market for smart contract capabilities because Bitcoin is not smart contract capable. It is just like a store of value. As on today, I think, you have a public address, private address, you exchange the value from one address to another address. That's all Bitcoin can do. But when it comes to the other smart contract platforms like Ethereum, EOS, name it, Cardano, every other Avalanche, Polkadot, everything is different on its own kind. Everybody is trying to solve a problem. But when someone asks me a question like who is superior, I think nobody is superior. In fact, one way or other, they're solving their own use cases. Every other blockchain has a significance. When we really compare them with one to other, every other blockchain has a significance. Think of this to the real world, right? I know the majority of the market share is from Oracle. Like, is Oracle the only database in this world? No, there is a significant market share for Microsoft SQL Server. There is a significant market share for DB2, though it is legacy. There is a significant market share for MongoDB. There is a significant market share for Elasticsearch. Like, you have wide variety of proprietary databases. Everyone have their own market share. When it comes to big data, you have like tons and tons of open systems, right? Think of that in distributed world. That is what I think we are going to talk. Every other blockchain, whatever you see in the coin market cap, whatever you name it, like the top 20, you see Avalanche is pitching up, they're trying to have Terra is doing a Columbus upgrade. They're solving, every other blockchain has their own consensus algorithm under the hood. They are trying to target certain audience. They're trying to target certain problems where the centralized systems couldn't resolve. But I think picking a perspective is a key. Like, what perspective you think the world is going to be and who will have an edge is a judgment like where every individual have to take on their own. So I think can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
I think if you guys focus something on this chart, I think this will get you to at least 90% of you will even talk like what I'm talking now. So this is what something called a trilemma, the Scalability Trilemma. This is just like the Decentralized Trilemma. If you understand this slide, I think you are halfway through understanding the entire cryptocurrency, entire blockchain space. So, when I say like why it is so important, right? So if you really go back to my conversation 10 minutes ago, I was talking about, right? So I just want to run my environment or my application or my money, like the decentralized finance people are talking, right? The NFT mania, what people are seeing across, like trustless systems, open systems where no one is controlling anything, unstoppable, in fact, unhackable. People, organizations are spending billions of dollars to protect their data, right? Every now and then we see hearing that Equifax is being hacked, right? So is there a better way where we trust some company who will try to protect our data, but they couldn't, and they compromise our integrity, and we can go nowhere, right? I think we don't even know where this data is being exchanged, right? So what if you try to take that and put them into like a blockchain where no hacker can even hack the entire system, where no hacker can, no one can even try to access the data until and unless you really sign your transaction. In fact, they can see the data, whatever they're supposed to see, which is the publicly distributed ledger. But you try to control the data, whatever you are being controlling on a central system rather than trusting a central party. So this trilemma will explain you something. So the entire blockchain, the entire blockchain competition, whatever we see in the market, are based on these three metrics. So blockchain primitives promise decentralization, security, like what I'm talking, and I don't know whether you see this one, the other one, scalability, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Like at a max, you can go any blockchain you look in the market right now can only offer two. So that's the toughest problem to solve. You cannot get all three of it. At a max, you can get only two. So each blockchain, whatever you see there, pick their own path. Either they compromise scalability and try to get decentralization security, or they give scalability but they compromise on decentralization, right? So I think that is the only choice what anyone can do as on today. Either you compromise decentralization or do something on your scalability. What is important to you? If you think that you really see that your data is just like so secure, you can't even compromise your data integrity, you compromise your scalability and try to offer decentralization and security. That is what Bitcoin is doing. It cannot scale like what other blockchains are scaling today. They have compromised the scalability, but honored you the decentralization, honored you the security. As on today, even ETH does the same. So it is hard to scale on the current state, which is ETH 1.0. I think they have some plans to even address that, the third corner, which I'll come there. But that's what I'm trying to say. Ethereum is still superior towards the roadmap, whatever they have. They are going to address all three. But as of today, they can only tackle two, which is nothing but the decentralization and the security. They're lagging behind on scalability, where the other market players are trying to take advantage out of it. That's all it is going to happen now. So if you try to tend your blockchain close to the scalability, you compromise decentralization. If you do these two, I think you lose something else, one way or other. So that is what I'm trying to see. If you understand the trilemma, like whatever algorithms we keep hearing, right, there will be a different chain tomorrow. But then when you go read their white paper, you'll understand what they are trying to address. The first thing, are they being truly decentralized? Some use cases, you don't need a decentralization. You need scalability, right? So does Facebook need a scalability? Most probably no, right? It's a social media. You may not need a decentralization, but you need scalability because you have 10 billion users accessing the network. If you really try to focus on decentralization, your block finality will be like 1 hour, right? Do you expect that you put a message to someone in a social media, you expect that message will be receiving the recipient in 1 hour? I don't think so. People will even accept that. So for such use cases, I don't need decentralization. I can compromise on decentralization and I'll go on scalability. So if I really launch a decentralized social media network, I may not pick Ethereum. I may pick something else which is good at, right? That's what I think I'm coming to. All these blockchains have their own significance. The decentralized apps which are going to be launched on those blockchains will decide which blockchain is right fit for them. If I'm trying to do a financial transaction, like I'm going to preserve my gold, right? I'm going to buy a synthetic asset on a synthetic protocol, right? Or another mirror protocol. It's a synthetic token, right? I really try to see that my oracles function well. I can't take any chance of losing my data, because that's the financial data, right? Yeah, I may go to a protected network where decentralization is promised than scalability. I don't care paying $40 on an Ethereum network to run a one DeFi contract, which will take like 10 minutes to the block finality, but my money is protected, right? So every other use case is different. The applications on top of it, whatever blockchain they pick, will dictate how you are going to fit into this scalability trilemma. So I think, since I've explained the picture speaks 100 words. So I think, this is the same context like what I've explained, but to go deep into it, yeah, you compromise the scalability, you get the other two. If you compromise decentralization, you get the other two. So security is a main aspect. I think one way or other, any blockchain you see there, as on today, had primarily focused on security, because no matter what, whether they pick decentralization or scalability, every blockchain is picking security as their choice, because no other application, no other user want to put their money, no other application want to put their data into their blockchain unless they are trying to protect their data, right? Because if it is not secured, who is going to put their data? So as an example, right, you guys might have seen Ethereum Classic, right? So if you really see Ethereum Classic, ETC is the Genesis Ethereum. If you guys go back and try to see the history, that ETC blockchain, whatever you see, that is the real Ethereum, right from day one. But I think there was a DAO attack. They broke the primitive of the code being law. So I think to avoid the DAO attack, I think Ethereum Foundation, like the Vitalik Buterin, had decided that he really wanna seize that DAO contract and try to make a hard fork. So they hard forked that network and made that. So that is not the original blockchain. Yeah, Ethereum Classic is the original blockchain. So I'm trying to bring that point. Since then, I think that ETC Ethereum Classic blockchain have got a Sybil attack, like 51% attack for at least 20 times by now. So I think the miners like collude each other. They try to fork. They attack 51%. I think they try to make that as a fork, and they run the show to get the rewards, right? So if I'm trying to run an application, though it is the de facto Ethereum, like, because Ethereum Classic is the original Ethereum, right? Other than the DAO hard fork. But it is not as expensive as Ethereum today. It's the gas fees is pretty cheaper there. Why the community is not picking to run their dApps? People are trying to burn their money by spending the gas on Compound protocol and protocol. Why they're not running that on Ethereum Classic, which is just exactly the same like what the current Ethereum is? Because security is a key, right? If you have a history of being 50%, 51% attack, if you compromise your network integrity, that's not good for that protocol. That's the reason, at least most of the networks, whatever we see today, are trying to put security being their choice always, and they pick the other one. Either they compromise on decentralization or scalability. But I think there are some big thoughts. We can even go deep into it, like what consensus protocol? It's a game theory. They call game theory, right? Now, not that every human in this world act like same. There will be bad actors. When you try to go with one algorithm, proof of work versus proof of stake versus delegated proof of stake, everything is a different consensus protocol. You have pros and cons on both, but I think the game theory for these creators, like Dan Larimer in this case, had a good game theory called delegated proof of stake, right? So there's no one who is trying to burn electricity like what Bitcoin is trying to do to prove that he's going to be mined. I'll try to explain what he has come up with. But I think, this is just like a chart for you to get a gist of to compare one blockchain to other blockchain. So at a high level, I think you see this, the block finality is like 600 seconds. So every 10 minutes, Bitcoin will try to mint.
Presentation mode lo kanandi sir, koncham text kanapatledu.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's see that.
Pakkana presentation. Okay? No, presentation mode is the last icon. If you can.
Yeah.
Give the maximum. Yeah.
Little better, right?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that these are the protocols, consensus mechanism, just to get you just like what are these from one to other. Polkadot, Cosmos, Cardano, XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin. I think you see the consensus algorithms, whatever I have mentioned. Blockchain is just like proof of work. Ethereum has on today its proof of work, but getting into proof of stake by next year. This is like a validator protocol. Again, Cardano is proof of stake, but when I go through their white paper, it has a mix of proof of stake and delegated proof of stake. There are some conspiracy theories like why they claim that as a proof of stake. But if you see the other two folks, these are parachains. Now, I know the world is going to be this. I think that's what the interest is. When Polkadot and Cosmos get into the Steam, I think they are going to change I think they're trying to solve inter-blockchain problem, right? So whatever we have now, they are just within the blockchain. But what if a transaction in Ethereum wants to perform a transaction in Cardano, right? Who's going to do that? Nobody's going to do. So this Polkadot is going to solve that inter-blockchain communication. They call them as a parachain, a relay chain. So they take the transactions from Ethereum and try to transform that change to the relay chain and do that confirmation on the same, because they're trying to, like, so you see the HTML protocol is the one which is making this web to communicate between one side to another side, right? So I think they're trying to develop that protocol. I think these Dot and Cosmos are trying to do that. But why I try to put this picture, you see that, so the decentralization and the scalability, right? You can try to see from this slide. This is a block time. You perform a transaction on a Bitcoin. It takes 10 minutes to get the confirmation. Every 10 minutes, miners are going to mine one block and try to make the transactions finally onto the blockchain. So that's the reason it takes 10 minutes with a high fee which you pay. Sometimes it may go even longer than 10 minutes, right? Every 10 minutes, block will be mined, and each block will carry like 4 to 5 transactions per sec. That's all it can do. So Ethereum, every 15 seconds, they try to make one block. So at a max, 70 transactions per sec. You see this one XRP? At the same time, every 4 seconds, when you transfer an XRP coin from an XRP protocol, you see that it is going to be instantaneous, right? 4 seconds, the block will be confirmed, and it can perform 6,000 transactions per sec. The reason for that, they have compromised the decentralization. So I'm just trying to connect the dots back to the slide, what I've shown to you, right? Cardano, again, the same deal. You get the confirmation in 20 seconds. They can do 5,000 transactions. There's 250 transactions per sec. The block finality is 10 minutes. Again, they have compromised. To me, I think they've compromised decentralization. What I mean by decentralization, right? So not that you have enough parties where if I have enough compute power, I can conquer the network, right? If there are like 100 node operators who are running the blockchain, assume that I have the power of replacing them with either by compute or by stake or by delegation, whatever protocol it might be. What if I really try to conquer them? Or what if I hack their system, right? What if I hack their system? Like I really make a Sybil attack and try to make these node operators go Sybil, right? Who is going to protect that network? You are getting compromised, right? So that's what, as on today, if you go to Ethereum, I think 10,000 nodes are trying to secure their network from every other continent in this planet, right? So they're more decentralized. Not that your Ethereum network can be compromised by a Sybil attack, right? That's what the decentralization is going to protect the assets on your protocol. I think the users and the applications will decide, right? I'm not saying that this can be attacked, but I'm trying to say there is a possibility. The less chances Bitcoin can be attacked, right? That's what big giants like big tycoons are even putting their money there. They want to see the monetization, which is secure for the rest of their life, for generations to come. The network is just guaranteeing that your assets are being protected. The security is being the paramount on it. Yeah, there is a compromise on the scalability, but that's okay. I think that's what you don't want to put your assets on a system where there is a chance of being hacked, right? Where there's a chance being attacked. So I think this table will try to get you that merits and all. But coming back to sticking to the same topic of EOS, again, this guy is the inventor for the delegated proof of stake. He had a pretty good history prior to the EOS. So he's the one who developed a decentralized social media platform called Steemit. It is a DPoS blockchain, and even it is running today. I think the platform name is Steemit. It's a decentralized, immutable social media platform, which will, I think, the game theory of this guy is pretty good, and the game theory what he has written. We all use Facebook, right? Why we use Facebook? So you have a network effect in it, right? Now, I just want to attract the Facebook users to my platform. What should I do? No, he simply had started saying that you start creating account in my platform, Steemit. You try to put a content on it, you get paid. So I think he tried to come up with a monetization in such a way that users of this platform will be monetized by getting awarded with the Steem tokens. Right? Think of it that way. So it has been working so well, but again, I think the way how he had debated that proof of work is not going to sustain for long. He came up with this delegated proof of stake protocol. But again, I think when we go, time doesn't permit now, but I think if we go deep, why that system doesn't work, I have a long theory behind that, why it didn't work. So because I think he came up with something like a delegated, right? So like a democracy, what we usually see in any constitution, right? So we represent, we elect one, we assume that he act well, right? What if he don't act well, right? So we elect a local body individual to represent our constitution to make bills and try to pass on. But what if he get colluded with other and try to didn't pass the bill what is supposed to pass? What if he really compromise the integrity of the network, right? So I think you have some challenges on that protocol, the delegated proof of stake, though it is radically so well to make this environment go scalable. You can try to scale like thousands and thousands of transactions, no brainer. He has the same cryptography, even more mature than Ethereum to that matter. He's the one who launched this EOS like with smart contracts and made it like a general purpose. Ethereum is truly based on, I think Ethereum Foundation had invented this Solidity programming language, and they have developed this Ethereum virtual machine, just like a Java virtual machine, right? So they have some dependencies like where they can run a third-party application like a C++ or a Java application on top of Ethereum blockchain. So they have their own limitations to make that network protected, but they're coming out of it. So this guy made blockchains are going to be adopted by these enterprises going forward. He made a simple protocol like, anybody who has a C or C++ background can even launch their C++ application by developing a smart contract on top of it using WebAssembly, and can launch their app. You don't even feel like when you use the applications on top of EOS, even today, you don't feel like that you are accessing a blockchain. You feel as if you are trying to access a centralized database like a Facebook. You don't feel it because of his brilliance, like the way how he had worked, the block finality of 500 millisec. The integrity still have a question, right? So the delegated proof of stake, voters, we as a token holder, we vote for one delegator. The delegator will maintain the chain and be as a block producer to mint blocks. So from a technology standpoint, that is all good, but from a scalability standpoint, like when you really trust democracy, there are some conspiracy theories around that, right? So that's what it had a very good start at point, like back then someone can even try to say, they even have claimed that this being the Ethereum killer, something like that. Ethereum can't scale more than 15 transactions per second. Day one, it can transact 5,000 it can even go beyond. The testing what they've done shown them to go only 4,000 transactions per second. And the block finality is a key, right? So you have to wait 15 seconds there. You need to wait only half a second here, 500 milliseconds. So I think it has its own pros, but somehow the intentions of the inventor didn't go well. So they have raised, I believe, almost close to $4 billion on their ICO to get the background. I think their failure, I think I'm going to talk to you like why they have failed, right? So I just gave the merits to you, why they didn't go well. Again, exactly the investors' interest and the community interest didn't get aligned. So initially, by seeing the technical brilliance, I think all the community had supported them, just making them to go against Ethereum. But once they get the money what they want, I think they didn't act well. They were actually trying to claim that the community will not act well once they release their protocol, but they didn't act well. So they gave all promises they never kept their promise on. So they had enormous money. They pulled that money out and they bought Bitcoin for $1 billion. And at a price of $3,000, I think they are just like $10 billion sitting in their collateral at this point. So they shared $1 billion to everyone. And out of that $4 billion, they just said, I think they're gonna give that $1 billion back to the community to attract the applications to develop. In fact, they have even provided the seed capital to several large companies. By now, I think the Wikipedia should be on EOS blockchain by now, with the promise what they made. So they've tried to launch Voice is one decentralized app. Again, the Steam on Steemit, even they have a replica copy of it, but due to some regulations, it didn't go well. So they made several promises that they want to put a 1 billion war chest into the communities to make these developers go develop the decentralized app, to bring those decentralized apps on top of EOS, so that way EOS will grow and have a network effect, which didn't go well. They didn't keep their promise. None of those projects kick-started. So I think they took the capital out, and we don't see anything. They keep saying that they're going to get a killer dApp. They get through the time. I think most recently, even the Dan Larimer, he had even stepped out from the CTO. So that had completely put this project at risk at this time. They made the money out of it. It is completely community driven. You can see even it is running successfully since then, to that matter. If you see, this is one of the block producer, EOS Authority. These are the block producers at this time. If you see.
Sir, block finality ante ఒకసారి explain చేయండి sir.
Block finality, what block finality means, say for example, so assume that for your understanding, right? There are like 10,000 nodes in Ethereum, right? We know that. Or pick an example, simple example of 100 nodes. Assume that as of today, Ethereum, EOS had like 121 block producer. These are elected BTC. You see this one? EOS Nation is a company who is running a node. A node is nothing but a copy of the entire database. So I gave you an example at the very beginning, right? Your Oracle database, right? One database. We usually have one host running that, right? Think of it that way. So all these 21 elected block producers, and standbys are like 52, I believe. So these are unpaid standbys. So 69, even these guys are carrying the same data. So what it means, right? All of these companies across the world maintaining the same database copy. So you try to say, I want to transact, I want to send a token from X to Y, right? So from one public address to another public address, you sign your private transaction, you broadcasted that transaction to the network, right? So that is what the EOS network is. Once the network pitches up, it takes the transaction and try to say, he nominates one of them. So right now, so he is with rank 1, right? So he just gets, I don't know, at this point in time, yes, you see, this guy is producing. You see this one? The protocol had decided this hash pin is going to confirm those transactions. How many transactions? Whatever transactions we send, right? You get those transactions, bundle those transactions into one block, you confirm that, make it into blockchain, and once you confirm it, cascade that change to the other block producer, so that way even they try to take the block from you and try to bundle them into that blockchain. So what it means, the block finality, and the question whatever you have asked, the consensus algorithm, at least within EOS, is something like the majority of 2/3, right? So you see 21 block producers here. So the 2/3 would be 15, right? If 15 block producers take the block and bundle that block into their database, that's when actually we call them as finality. Now you can assure that your transaction is confirmed. It's not only one guy in that network had accepted your transaction, had bundled that transaction in a block. There are 2/3 of those block producers, official block producers, had confirmed and accepted your transaction. Means your transaction is just like a truth on a rock. That is what we call them as a block. Once your transaction is bundled and appended into a blockchain and a distributed ledger, that is not going to change for the rest of the life. That transaction is confirmed. So that's what the block finality is. So the block finality here is 500 millisec. Within that 500 millisec, at an average, 15 block producers out of 21 will confirm your transaction. That's what it means, block finality means. So pick the same example and go to Bitcoin, right? You have 10,000 nodes, whatever it is, right? So there will be a nonce. For proof of work, you have to chase the algorithm, right? You have to solve the cryptography. Cryptography is nothing but picking a nonce and try to identify whether this nonce is, they pick a random nonce, right? Every 10 minutes, I think the Bitcoin chain will try to identify nonce. Try to ask these miners to solve that nonce, whether this nonce is below the existing nonce or above the existing nonce. So it takes 10 minutes for their hash power. They have a big debate, right? So the energy what this blockchain is trying to consume to confirm the mine can even be utilized for one country. So I think they come up with this big ASIC mining rigs to compete from one miner to another miner to confirm it. Again, coming back to the block finality, it takes 10 minutes that your block will be confirmed, your transaction will be confirmed with the majority of the protocols, right? The miner will get rewards, right? The reward will be awarded for every 10 minutes. By then, it gets awarded, your block will be hashed, and the next block will pick that hash and try to make a next block. So that's when actually the block finality will happen. So when you do some transactions on some of these exchanges, right? You see, I wait for 15 confirmations, 16 confirmations, right? Means they wait. The block they don't wait. Usually you're good for one block, right? The next block gets minted, the hash will be carried to the next block. Technically you're good, but sometimes what happens, there will be a chance that there will be what is that you call hard fork, soft fork, because you soft fork, hard fork, and it is little technical. So group of nodes will pick one block as confirmed. Group of nodes will pick another block as confirmed. So there is a split, right? So I think these exchanges will try to maintain, hey, I don't want to confirm this transaction and make user assume that he's done until I go past 15 confirmations. So multiply, 15 seconds is a confirmation time for Ethereum. If you wait for 15 confirmations, means 15 into 15 sec. That's all it is. So, but the block finality is defined at a protocol level, but for proof of work chains, it is a little longer. But most of these proof of stake chains, it is pretty much in seconds. To answer your question.
Yeah.
Did I answer that?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So coming back to, I think, again, why they got failed, I just explained at a high level. So though they are very superior than anyone's, even today. For the first time, I think, even people have a challenge today saying that, hey, I lost my private key, right? That's a big question, right? Everybody will say, somewhere I lost my private key. How can I do? I think your funds are gone. There is no way that you can get away out of it. You are done, right, for the life. But this guy is smart enough, because enterprises will not have it, right? We keep forgetting our passwords for all these Gmails, Yahoo mails. If you go back and ask Yahoo, maybe after 10 years, I'm pretty sure that Gmail may even run their platform on a blockchain, maybe putting the data on IPFS and giving you your own private key, right? But his vision was that, like, what if user intentionally or unintentionally might have lost his private key? He should not be penalized for it. So I think he came up with a very good idea. People should even admire his thought. He came up with something like, he still tried to issue a public key, private key, but he called them as a role hierarchy. So he came up with something like owner key, active key. So I think you try to operate your active key. You can generate as many number of active keys, public key, private key. That is something like public private key in any other network for us. But you can connect that public private key on top of a owner key. So something like, you keep your gold in a safe box, but you keep the safe box key in another bank, right? So though you lose this one, I think you have a secondary key on it. So as long as you maintain if you lose your owner key, there is no getaway for you. But at least he gave one level of protection, I think, which is more radical. Like, if you run a social website, I may be the owner for that social website, but the user, I don't need to know what the user's password is, because I think he don't want to maintain his security with me. He need to maintain his own security, right? But when some things goes wrong, right, he maintains his own private key. What if he loses his private key, right? At least at that point in time, being a owner or being a creator for that social networking website, I may try to change his current active key. I will generate another public key. I try to make his active key to the another active key, since being a owner for it. I think that's one of its own kind. So he made several things pretty well. He made human readable addresses too. People have a challenge, right? Every time we have a big challenge saying that, hey, can you give me public address? Make sure that you send a test money, right? People, they want to send 1,000 tokens, but they don't do that. Usually they do send one token, they spend gas out of it. Once they get a confirmation, they'll ensure that their public address is true. But this guy is even more creative. He say, yeah, even Ethereum have ENS, we call them as Ethereum naming service. It didn't pitch the attention of market, but it will come to at some point. But I believe it's a paid service. There are other third parties who maintain your public key mapping to naming like human readable address. So he'll come to that part in maybe next couple of years. But this guy had this on ground one. You have public key, private key, but you can call with a 7-character name, whatever. If I really want to put Go America should be your account, right? You can create an account like that. The other individual, if he really want to send using public key, he can send it, because that is anyway the layout, right? But I think you can refer that guy in that network with that name, with a human readable address. That is something like so radical too. Like if you see this one, if you're seeing my screen right now, all these guys have the name like that. I think his key would be, if you see this one, his account is EOS Nation. This is account name. So I think it has its own merit. Again, obviously this could have been the next generation blockchain, because the other thing which I didn't even mention, this specific blockchain don't even have a fee concept. There is every other transaction on this network is free. Every transaction is free. So it's a free network. But the only thing to collude, to avoid the collusion, I think all they simply did said you need to hold some tokens, put it in your wallet. But once you have it, you'll get some network share of CPU, network share of RAM. So that should be good enough to do a 10 transaction or 15 transactions a day without even paying a single penny. So I think we are at the top of the hour. So I think, again, why they didn't go well, I think governance, because the way how they have promised at the very beginning, they didn't kept their promises up to the expectations. And even the CTO himself tried to impose some regulations to the protocol, which didn't get through because block producers didn't listen to him because of their own interest. He couldn't get through. He had tried his own best for past 2 years to change this. But again, since these are open systems, right? Though the founder is superior, you can't control the entire one. And to that matter, Vitalik, though is the guy for the Ethereum, all he can try to influence, not even influence, maybe he can inspire others to act like good, but he can't control the network. It is not in his hand, right? It is just like the democracy in a world. We can't even control one nation on a democracy phase. Now, these open systems are everywhere, and it's hardly impossible unless until you really put proper checks and balances from day one. So, I can even go deep, like one token, one vote is one thing what he could have done to make this governance go well. But all these whales are just like they're doing vote buying now. To be frank, you hold some EOS, you try to vote for these guys, like whatever I've shown here, they'll try to give you, they'll pay you just for the sake that you vote for them. It is as same as like vote buying in a democracy, right? Is that a good democracy to run a network, which is not good? I think that's why I think people are not aligned with this DPoS protocol, which he just got failed in it. So all these block producers, if you vote for these guys, they'll pay you. And it's official. They had a big debate not to do that for some time, but after that they gave up, which is not good. That's not a good sign. I think since from that point, I think this network had lost the traction from the market, and I think it reflects the price too, as far as I know. So let me take a conclusion at this point and open the floor for any questions. I think it makes sense for some of you.
Yeah.
I might have been jumping too fast, but
No.
I think I made some value out of it.
Awesome, sir. Thank you. I think we concluded right on time. I think we are good. So let's stick to the questions regarding the particular EOS and blockchain in general. So yeah, if anybody wants to go first, they can go, but I have a few questions too. So, sir, let me ask this question anyways first. So, how did you end up doing all this research? Because this amount of knowledge doesn't come in one day, or where did you start? How did you do all this research? I'm following someone so closely, following the project so closely is not easy. Okay, so how did you end up getting all this information?
No, we were actually trying to, at least I myself had tried to adopt this and try to take it to the next level. We had plans to develop DApp, and we even have today too. I think even I'm still in that mode of launching that killer DApp what people are looking for. I think that's what the interest is.
Okay, so you were planning to use the platform and the
exactly, yeah. The DApp is my interest, yeah.
DApp is your interest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's why you ended up. So, what are the resources that you were talking about? I mean, where did you? I mean, see, you have interest. I got that. But then the next step is, where to go and start looking, right? So that is there any common websites or any YouTubers?
Right. Most of the stuff, like what I have learned out of all this stuff is like. If you see these Bitcoin conferences, whatever you have, I think that's the best part. I think this year, very specifically, if you guys really have time, go back. I think this is one of its own kind. They made it free.
Wow. Which one?
So, YouTube, I think every time I think you have to pay like what, $2,000, $3,000 to be to show up in this Florida's summit.
Okay.
So that is a session. All these protocols and all these, everybody like your IT sir, whatever we're coming up, right? So these guys will come up there. So if you really go through one session, like whatever we had this year, you'll come to know like the killer protocols, like what Polkadot is actually trying to solve. What is their next roadmap? All that stuff. So my interest will start from there.
Okay.
I usually go through those videos, and in fact, I wait for the feedings, like at least from past 2 years, 3 years, to get the info. Because if I really want to launch a DApp, right, I just want to launch my DApp on on a network, which will try to get me the network effect, right? So if I want to sell on a marketplace, where I want to sell, I think I want to sell them only on Amazon. I don't want to sell them on a website where I don't get enough audiences to sell my product.
Yeah.
So that's the interest. Now, since things are emerging,
it is probably more. The example probably is more relevant. Like if you are creating an app, you rather create for iPhone rather than creating for like Windows Phone.
Exactly. Where there are no enough users, right? Yeah. So if I develop an Apple Store app, I think I have more users. I get a more.
Yeah, you could probably be a millionaire.
Exactly. That's the only interest.
Yeah.
But again, I think irrespective of this technology advancement, so I just get to admire whatever I listen, because this is so radical. I think genuinely I'm speaking, if the Nobel Authority go by merits, I think White League should get it. I think that's my stance. Maybe at some point, since it is just like so genius.
I have a question.
Sir,
I have a question between this owner key and active key. You said the main advantage of this EOS is because of this owner key, and the disadvantage of other, exchanges. Or I mean, again, I'm a rookie. I'm a layman. So as a layman, I still need to have a key. Either it is owner key. So on EOS, if I lose owner key, it's gone. On other exchanges, if I lose another key, it's gone. So there is no real benefit of having the owner key, right?
Correct. So let's put it this way. So sometimes what happens, we really want to control security. You have two-factor authentication, right? There is a way that if you lose the password, maybe you can even crack it. So think of that analogy in this way. But yeah, obviously, if you really lose your 2FA, you lose your phone and you don't have 2FA and you don't have a password, most probably you're out of the hoods. But this is one level of extra protection than just having one private key. So what his analogy, like his vision was, hey, I create a owner, like say for example, organization have several individuals who work for a team, right? He's not trying to design this for an individual. He think of it like the smart contract world is everything is a contract. Contract is in an address, right? So you deploy a smart contract, which is your business logic, right? And that will have a key too. You have a public key, private key for that too. And you can't simply say that one individual have that private key, because it's an organization, right? So you may share that node, or every other employee of your organization will work on the same host. And though they encrypt, though they even actually try to put them on a wallet, they know their password for it, right? They can do wrong actions too. What if I really have to control them? Who can control it? Because as long as the host is right, the owner is nothing but taking that ownership. Say, if this actor is a bad actor in my organization, I just want to take the privileges back from him. Since being a owner, I try to revoke the active key and try to put a different active key on that contract. That's all. But protection, security, as I think probably many of us are even trying to share what are the best practices around. Yeah, this is a double-edged sword, sir. So what happens? We ask that I just want to protect my data, right? Protecting your data is more important than protecting the password. So I think the protocol is saying that I give the luxury to you that no one else can even try to access, or no one else can even try to counterfeit your data until you sign the transaction with your private key, because that is the freedom what you are getting, but at a cost of the regular intimacies what we usually see in a traditional world. There is no better answer. Maybe what I'm thinking, I think going forward, things are evolving. There will be a better answer, and this can be a better use case if someone wants to solve as you're coming up.
Yeah, thanks. I think you pretty much answered my question. I think if I take this from the organization standpoint, or waiting as an organization, then I see this has value addition.
Exactly. That's value addition for an organization to have a multi-sig, right? So you see, we might have had multi-sig contracts, right? So it is a kind of a concept, but usually other blockchains, you have to implement the multi-sig contracts. But this guy had made it little easy where the protocol, because he maintains his own MongoDB within that. I think I just went to the internals too. So the ENS, whatever Ethereum is offering, he just made it as a default. That's all he has done.
Thanks.
Sir, I have a question regarding the triangle that you mentioned. So you mentioned that any blockchain can achieve only scalability, decentralization, security, two of those three.
Right.
So I didn't quite understand when you said like Cardano is going for scalability and security, but not for decentralization. Right. So, like, what do you exactly mean? Are they compromising on?
Yeah, I think at this point they're evolving, as I'm saying. So maybe, though I claim right now, at least though Ethereum claim right now that they can scale, but this is not going to be forever. So I think they are working so hard not to compromise any out of this trilemma, at least Ethereum. That's what ETH 2.0 with sharding will come up. Maybe when sharding comes up, that's when actually the real scalability. So what they're trying, without even compromising these two, what other options we have, that's what I think these blockchain communities are working on. So as of today, I think with the smart contract capability of Cardano, they don't have smart contract capability until last month, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So it is a DPoS, but I think flavored with, you stake it, but again, they are not compromised on the scalability, but they didn't even have a full Turing solution of smart contracts until last month. But they're ahead of the others right now. They're getting there. The smart contract platform is on. They still have some challenges to run more than 2 byte or 3 byte worth of state opcode, I believe, but they're working towards that. Yeah, as of now, the reality is just whatever you pick up, what you can compromise on. Right? What transactions are there? This is just like a counterfeit problem as on today, but it may not be the problem going forward. They're trying to solve it.
So with the current state of Cardano, so I didn't understand when you say they're compromising the decentralization part. So what?
What I mean? Yeah, if you see the protocol under the hood, so they are just trying to take a subset of block producers, which are they call them epochs, right? So at a certain point in time, for one epoch, there will be only, as I read, I think 120 or even 1024, something like that. Maybe 1 million users are maintaining the network, not that every other user in that network is just trying to produce the block. That's what I mean, decentralization means. So as on today, anybody in the Ethereum network can try to mine a block. That is not the case in Cardano today. Decentralization means anyone in this network at any point in time can mine a block, can produce a block, though it is a proof of stake. That's what ETH 2.0 is going to do. If you see this beacon chain, anybody can be a block producer. It's a random protocol, right? Which is not now. They're every batch they're picking certain users they call them as epochs, right? So within that time, there are only limited block producers. It's not as decentralized as you think. Everybody's running the node, but they're not part of the network for that epoch because they don't want to compromise the scalability. So again, they compromised the decentralization in that aspect.
So, got you. So,
that's what I meant, yeah.
So if these nodes are compromised, then the security is gone.
Yeah, at that point in time, right? Yeah, at that point in time.
So does this mean that if they're limiting the number of nodes so that in the consensus protocol they can two-thirds will be limited so that how many people can
game theory, see, maybe we know that for this epoch, assume that, but what they are claiming, right? How can you know that? It's only the protocol who is deciding who will be that in that epoch, right? But how an attacker will do that? We do within that time, I may change my epoch, right? So the game theory. So I'm free from attack too. So why decentralization is material? Making sure that you are secure, you're not being targeted, right? If there are known parties, you can target. So that is what even Ethereum at some point with Beacon Chain, whatever they're running now, it is more or less the same. But I think the decentralization truly is something like, hey, every node should have a capability. Every node should have a copy of it. It's not that you delegate to someone. The other layer 2 protocols have that methodologies, right? So they're trying to solve, hey, I am being constrained to compromise my scalability, but let's solve that problem. How to do that? So that's what they're trying to change the protocols itself, the consensus algorithm itself, right? To match that. But again, it is all a game theory. It's all mathematics, right? Under the hood. So though I try to pick a random users, no one knows who are those parties, right? At that point in time. By the time someone knows it, I'm changing my epoch. So I think I won the game theory, right? So security can't be compromised too. So that's what they're trying to solve. Yeah, this even today, even Ethereum goes to proof of stake by next year. That's what they claim, right? Even then, they're not scalable. They are not scalable. Now, the only scalable solution, whatever you have in Ethereum, is just something like you go to these L2 chains, right? Like Arbitrum, Optimism, the other L2 protocols.
Matic.
Matic is sidechain to me, but again, they're claiming it is L2. But yeah, kind of Matic too. Yes.
So Satishkar, so the way you started this, saying that this is EOS is kind of superior than Ethereum because it's covering all the 3 aspects of decentralized scalability.
Not 3 aspects, they compromise decentralization, right?
Yeah. So, but towards the end, you're saying that they basically failed in implementing the applications, right? Does this mean that we should stay away from this in investment point of view?
Yeah, to me, see, they every time they come up with a catalog, my understanding, they never kept that promise. They say that they put $1 billion, right? They said, I think this $1 million is just for the community. They gave up, saying that since you guys have, hardly this US development cost them only $200 million, to be frank, right? So this guy already had the Dan Larimer had the source code from BitShares. He had the source code from Steemit, right? So he mixed it. So Steemit is designed for social media. BitShares is designed for decentralized exchange. He already has that source code. So that's the reason he could able to launch this EOS in 6 to 10 months. I believe within 10 months he's done. It didn't took years. And in fact, there is no one who contributed it, right? Usually Ethereum or Cardano, there will be developers who contributes it. They get paid, foundation will pay them and all that stuff. IOHK, foundation, this is a big stick. These guys had seed capital from Peter Thiel and all. Mike Novogratz, they are the venture capitalists for this EOS. They took that VC money. They got it. Hardly they have spent $200 million to get that software out. But once they have the software, they have collected $4 billion for community, right? It's too big of money. And in fact, they ran an ICO on Ethereum itself. That's how they got that money. They launched the Genesis block. They have some regulations which they didn't claim that you should not launch the network. If you launch it, SEC will be behind you, right? They let community to launch it and all that stuff. They did some drama before they launch. But after that, what they have done, they said, okay, out of 4 billion, since you guys have respected our work and honored us with 4 billion, we're giving $1 billion back to the community. So that way, whoever comes with some killer ideas, the dApps, right, we will invest on you. So that way you will launch them on my EOS and maybe share those tokens back to everyone. You see all these, there are like crappy coins now. None of those guys who took the money from them didn't show up, didn't even launch an app till now. Everypedia, like Wikipedia guy, right? He said, I think he will launch the decentralized, because Everypedia is being censored too, right? Wikipedia is being censored too. He really want a vision that, hey, I just want to launch my encyclopedia on a blockchain so that way it is immutable. No government can come behind and try to change the truth. It's a radical idea. They gave, I think 80 million or 100 million, something like that for them. That didn't get 30 million, I believe. But he didn't launch here. He took the money and I don't know, he didn't see any interest from these inventors or something like that. So like that now, the only hope since they put their 1 billion into Bitcoin and it made them 10 billion now. And have you heard about bullish exchange? They're coming up with a centralized exchange like Coinbase now. This guy, the Brendan Bloomer, whatever I explained. And again, the same Peter Thiel, Michael, Noah Grudge, and everybody had put money. They're saying that we are coming with a centralized exchange like Coinbase. They're listing in NASDAQ too. And the company name is Bullish. So I think they're saying that we will try to, Coinbase is centralized, right? We can't see the order book under the hood. We don't even know what is their order book, right? It is a centralized system. They're saying that we make it on a EOS blockchain. So that is another use case where people have hope on it. Right now, the only catalyst what they have on this EOS public chain is they have promised that they will launch that bullish centralized exchange data on this EOS blockchain. At least the hash they're saying. They can't do everything, but at least they're saying they'll run them on a private blockchain, but they put at least a hash. So that way people will say, hey, I think there is a real use case, right? Bullish is running on EOS blockchain. So that is a catalyst for the EOS coin holders. I think that's the only interest what it has now, unless I didn't follow them so deep at recent times. They didn't keep their promise, sir. I think that's what the biggest mistake what they've done.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
Sir, maybe we can wrap the call with the last thing. మీరేమేమి చూస్తారు? మొన్న ఇందాక ఏదో కన్సల్టింగ్ ఫర్మ్ ఏదో చెప్పారు, దాని పేరు ఒకటి చెప్పండి. అండ్
కన్సెన్సిస్ అండి, కన్సెన్సిస్ అకాడమీ
వెబ్సైట్లో చూపిస్తారు. ఒకసారి వెబ్సైట్
చూపిస్తాను. It's kind of a university and for blockchain, at least for Ethereum. They don't teach anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are considering going already? You're a member of this, sir, or?
I've attended their boot camp. Yes.
Oh, you're already certificate istara vallu? I mean,
yes. They'll blockchain certification istara. Yeah, they'll give blockchain certifications. They develop. In fact, I think that is how I think any blockchain developer will start.
Right.
Picking their hands dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, probably like GCP and AWS certifications.
Kind of that is.
Yeah, that's a very formal route to become a blockchain.
Right. Formal route, very specific to Ethereum. They don't teach anything else.
Anyways, winner will take all, kada. So any market, winner will take all.
You see, these guys are teaching like big organization. This is very valid part. Yeah. Even AWS learn from them. In fact, one stunning news on this, even GCP is a block producer here. Do you all know that? Means it's their technology interest, like the way what I am, right? Even we ran a block producer to be frank. I don't want to give the name, but you know that side. But even here, even GC, they don't get
You,
rewarded.
you can
They
give your
just
name. You can give your name, sir. What is wrong with that?
oh yeah. I think we ran a block producer called EOS India back then.
Yeah, that's fine, sir. Why do you want
We were
to
part
hide?
of.
And you did so
We were
much
part
hard
of.
work. You did so much hard work. What is wrong in telling your block name?
Right. I was part of the Genesis block. There was a drama for a week. Who should launch? All that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is where we should target, sir. I mean, we should not be ashamed of saying what we, because we are genuinely working so hard. I
Yes.
think our motto of the team is when we get to a point in 2 years or 3 years or 10 years from now, we should be making notes and making let people be willing to.
That is inevitable. One way or other, community is nothing but us.
Yeah.
So inevitably, I bet anybody who might have been talking about currencies today will even be part of one community. At some point, they'll get that pinch and try to act as if that's what your cell phone will become a block producer, right? They're targeting that. You can even run from a laptop. Sometimes it can be your IoT device. Who knows, right? Your bulb can be IoT. Have you heard about that name in past?
Yes.
So I think that is what your fridge can be a node validator. Right? They'll just try to use the energy out of it, the RAM out of it. That's what the decentralization is. That your network is being protected by every other instance of compute. Yeah, it is inevitable. We will see that. That is not going to be a fantasy anymore.
And it will be too fast. It will come very fast before we.
Yeah, very fast. That's correct.
Okay. So, any other resources that you would like us to follow? That
that blockchain foundation is one. I think YouTube,
maybe just go to those. Open up, sir. Open up and show us maybe whatever references you have.
You see this one? I think YouTube.com.
CoinGecko also has a conference.
Very good. The CoinGecko is even good too. I think
CoinGecko has a conference coming up. They have for $35. I don't know if it's worth going there. I think it is worth it. $25 or something. They have some conference going on. Entrance fees is $25.
Okay.
So they have They have everything on metaverse. This conference is on a metaverse.
Metaverse. Okay. Yeah. Metaverse is the next big thing. Right after NFT would be that. Even Facebook had even declared that they are actually trying to think into the metaverse too. They really want to take this company to a metaverse company.
Yeah, because they have Oculus Rift and
yeah. No, this technology will stay there, sir. That's the reason I have no idea about the currency. When you ask, I don't even know the prices of any of these currencies too. I have no clue. Not that I should not be, but yeah.
Awesome.
But I think the underlying stuff, everyone have their merit. I usually think I always relate this to the real world complications, right? Can one database rule the world? Absolutely no. So every blockchain will survive unless until the community actually adopts it and try to see what they're actually trying to solve.
Okay. Some
such databases evolve. Some Cardano has his own lion share. But not that they say maybe value will always be driven by the money. That's okay. But again, sometimes value will only be derived from merits too. Maybe long run people may sustain too. Some companies may not. Google was not Google what we all know as a Google 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But cool and steady will make them like what it is. When Yahoo and Google were competing 15 years ago, Google was nowhere close to Yahoo. But these guys took time to build from scratch, right? They always believe in them and they didn't pay anything to the proprietaries. Yahoo is a big user of all these NetApp, right? All NAS file systems to scale. But this guy, Google, took time to develop Dremel page. That's what the entire big data, whatever we're talking, it's a white paper from Google. So they developed the Dremel, they believe in them, they developed their own open source solutions rather than paying to some XYZ company. Now Yahoo can scale. Yahoo is just like legacy now. Google see where they are. Yeah. So like these blockchains, sometimes one will take edge, some will go further down. And big giants are playing now. You remember you were asking something, right? I've started reading most recently about Solana. I think it is even more interesting to me when I start reading them. They're just like big shots from Qualcomm, you know, the Qualcomm chip designer, chip engineers. They've come up. I think their game theory was even different. They're talking no proof of stake, no proof of work. They're coming about proof of history. So I think they really want to go by GPU computers, right, and try to develop a protocol which is at a time level, right? Usually we go by sequence, right? The nonces are numbers, but they say, what if I really develop one global clock, no matter what, without internet? You can with that protocol, we all can see the same time. I think you see how radical their thought process was. That is the protocol for Solana. Very good, very good. They're coming up, which is good, right? Some use cases are better for them. They can do thousands and 50,000 transactions per sec, something like that. They're claiming.
Right. So, okay, sir. I think that's good. Any final? I mean, I see you're using Brave. Being a blockchain enthusiast, you're using Brave. Yeah, that's good. So, any last references that you want to show us before we wrap up the call?
No, I'm good, sir. I think probably we can even have maybe, I know 1 hour is too short. If I really
sure.
get something wrong, probably I think it's just the rush which I really want to.
No,
but I think if time permits, I can even go deep, just to clarify for any.
So sure, sir. I personally would go into that consulting firm that you said. I'll look into the course and all. But if you are interested and if you have time and energy, we can do one more session on Ethereum. You can probably walk us through what you learned there, and then we'll also try to become that. Go through the
absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for time.